Sarah Mitchell had been a nurse for 7 years. At 28, she had kind eyes and a gentle way about her that put even the most anxious patients at ease. Her brown hair was always pulled back neatly, and she wore her pale blue scrubs with quiet dignity. She worked the day shift at St. Mary's Hospital, where the hallways smelled of antiseptic and hope. One autumn morning, Sarah was assigned to care for a new patient in room 412. His name was Daniel Cross. The chart said he was 42 years old and in kidney failure. When she entered his room, she found a man lying very still, his dark hair falling across the pillow. He had stubble on his jaw and looked terribly tired. "Good morning, Mr. Cross," Sarah said softly. "I'm Sarah. I'll be taking care of you today." Daniel opened his eyes slowly. They were brown, deep, and sad. "Hello," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Over the following weeks, Sarah learned that Daniel had no visitors. No family came. No friends stopped by with flowers or well wishes. The room stayed quiet except for the beeping of machines and Sarah's gentle conversation. "Don't you have anyone we should call?" she asked him one afternoon, adjusting his pillow. Daniel shook his head. "I have a company, employees, but no one close." Sarah's heart ached for him. She had seen loneliness before, but something about Daniel's isolation touched her deeply. He was polite, always thanking her, never complaining despite his pain. She started spending her breaks in his room. They talked about small things at first. The weather, the terrible hospital food, then deeper things. Daniel told her about building his business from nothing, working 70-hour weeks, climbing and climbing until he reached the top. Somewhere along the way, he realized he had left everything else behind. "Success," he said quietly one day, "doesn't keep you warm at night." Sarah squeezed his hand. She understood. Her own father had been alone at the end, a lesson she would never forget. When the doctor said Daniel needed a kidney transplant urgently, Sarah made a decision. She went home that evening and sat at her small kitchen table for a long time. Then she picked up the phone. The testing took 2 weeks. Sarah told no one at first, not even Daniel. When the results came back, she was a match, a perfect match. Her supervisor tried to talk her out of it. "Sarah, this is a huge decision. You barely know this man." But Sarah knew enough. She knew that Daniel was a human being who deserved a second chance. She knew that she had 2 healthy kidneys and he had none. The mathematics of kindness were simple. When she finally told Daniel, he wept. It was the first time she had seen him cry. "Why would you do this for me?" he asked, his voice breaking. Sarah smiled. "Because someone should." The surgery happened on a cold November morning. Sarah's younger sister, Emily, held her hand before they wheeled her away. "You're the bravest person I know," Emily whispered. Both surgeries went well. Recovery was slow, filled with pain and patience, but they healed. Room by room, down the same hospital corridor, they both grew stronger. 3 months later, Sarah returned to work. Daniel had gone home, and she assumed that was the end of their story. She had given what she could give, and that was enough. But one spring morning, she arrived at work to find Daniel waiting in the lobby. He looked different, healthy. His eyes were bright, and he was smiling. "I wanted to thank you properly," he said, "and to tell you something." They walked to the hospital cafeteria and sat by the windows where sunlight pooled on the tables. Daniel told her that her gift had changed more than his health. It had changed his heart. "I've spent my whole life building walls," he said. "I thought success meant doing everything alone. Being strong meant needing no one. You showed me I was wrong." He had been meeting with his employees differently, really listening to them. He had called his estranged brother in Seattle. They had talked for 3 hours. He had joined a community group that helped newly arrived immigrants find housing. "I'm learning how to be part of the world again," Daniel said. "Because of you." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "I'm so glad." "There's something else," Daniel continued. "I'd like to establish a foundation for people who can't afford their medical care, people who are alone and scared like I was. Would you help me run it?" Sarah looked at this man whose life she had touched, who had in turn touched hers. She thought about all the lonely people in the world, all the second chances waiting to happen. "I'd be honored," she said. And so began a friendship that neither of them expected. Daniel sold his penthouse and moved to a simpler home. Sarah took a part-time nursing position and spent the rest of her time helping Daniel build something meaningful. The foundation grew slowly, carefully, helping one person at a time. They never became romantic, these two souls who had shared so much. Their connection was deeper than that. It was the bond between two people who had both learned the same lesson: that wealth isn't measured in bank accounts, and that giving someone a piece of yourself is the most precious gift of all. Years later, Sarah would tell people that she hadn't saved Daniel's life that November morning. They had saved each other. On quiet evenings, they still met for coffee. Daniel would ask about her patients, and Sarah would ask about the foundation's work. They would sit together, two people who understood that kindness is never wasted, that loneliness can be healed, and that sometimes the most important thing we can give another person is simply the message, "You matter, and you are not alone." That truth, they both knew, was worth more than all the money in the world.